looked at it again.
We want the referee to make the final decision at the screen. They're provided with the video evidence that the VAR has looked at and formed the opinion that something's clearly wrong. But the final call is the referee's.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into a moment that really got the football world talking. That VAR intervention in the Liverpool versus Everton derby.
Yeah, quite the flashpoint. We've got an article here that covers the incident itself and, the immediate chaos that followed.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack those key moments, the decision, and understand the very different viewpoints surrounding it all.
Right. So let's set the scene. It's the derby, always intense. There's a pretty hefty tackle on Liverpool's Alexis Mac Allister.
Okay.
The ref on the pitch, he sees it, gives a yellow card. Seems, well, pretty standard for a derby challenge at first glance.
But then enter VAR. The video assistant referee calls for a review, right? That's when things started to shift dramatically.
Oh, absolutely. The referee trots over to the pitchside monitor. Everyone's waiting. He watches the replays, angles, takes his time.
Always feels like forever, doesn't it?
It does. And then he comes back onto the pitch, cancels the yellow, and pulls out a straight red card. You could almost feel the collective gasp.
Yeah, the article really paints that picture. Everton players, just stunned, total disbelief. Their manager on the sidelines looked absolutely furious.
Meanwhile, the Liverpool end erupts, obviously. What seemed like a routine booking suddenly became the defining moment of the entire match.
And the impact on the actual play was pretty immediate, wasn't it?
Totally. Liverpool, now with the man advantage, could really turn the screw. They pressed higher, controlled possession more easily, and eventually they secured that 1-0 win.
And for Everton.
Well, down to 10 men, they basically had to park the bus, didn't they? Deep defensive shape, hopes of getting back into the game massively hindered. It really changed their whole approach.
So let's talk about how people saw this decision. The article highlights, unsurprisingly, two very different camps.
Right. From the Liverpool fans' perspective, as the article notes, it was largely seen as, justice. The feeling was the tackle was reckless, dangerous, and definitely warranted a red.
Fair enough. But the Everton side?
Completely different story. The article conveys a real sense of frustration, even anger. They felt VAR had overstepped, interfered unnecessarily in a typical derby battle, and ultimately kind of ruined the contest. Made it a farce, some might say.
And the pundits had their say too, of course. Jamie Carragher, former Liverpool player himself, actually urged a bit of caution, didn't he?
He did. He made that point about slow-motion replays, how they can sometimes make challenges look worse than they are in real time. He stressed VAR needs to be used very carefully.
Interesting. But not everyone agreed.
No. Mark Clattenburg, the former referee, defended the VAR process here. The article mentions him saying the initial yellow was just wrong, a mistake, and VAR did its job by correcting that clear error.
So even the experts are split. It really shows how subjective these calls can still be, even with technology.
Exactly. And this whole incident, as the source points out, just pours fuel on the wider VAR fire, doesn't it?
It does. We hear the same criticisms constantly.
Yeah.
It breaks up the game's rhythm, those long pauses waiting for a decision. It can be incredibly frustrating for fans and players alike. Plus the inconsistency arguments.
Definitely. But, the article also brings us back to why VAR exists in the first place. The idea is to catch those absolute howlers, the clear and obvious errors, and try to bring more fairness. It's a balancing act.
A tricky one. And because of these ongoing debates, the article mentions growing sites, calls for some changes in how the Premier League uses VAR.
Yeah, things like maybe stricter time limits on reviews, trying to speed the process up somehow, less standing around.
Makes sense. What else?
Another idea mentioned is making the communication between the ref and the VAR official public, like they do in rugby, for instance. Let people hear the discussion during the review.
Transparency. The thinking being that even if you disagree, at least you'd understand the reasoning better.
Precisely. Might help reduce some of the confusion and anger, perhaps?
So wrapping up this deep dive then, we're left with that core question the article raises. Was it the right call? That red card? Or did VAR just overshadow the game in a negative way?
And what's really clear from reading about it is just how polarized the views are. The passion on both sides, from fans to pundits, it shows this isn't going away anytime soon. Subjectivity is still a huge factor.
It really is. Okay, final thought for everyone listening. Considering everything we've discussed from the source, all the arguments for and against VAR, if you could make just one change to how it's used in football, what would it be? Something to chew on.